Pepper owns this chair now, and he's also very warm and fuzzy, and so I'm gonna sit halfway with one butt cheek on the arm of my chair, and it'll be fine.
You'll be so comfortable.
This is I've never been more comfortable in my life, so, it is what it is. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to Sell the Damn
Thank
Service.
you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Um, is it weathering where you're at?
No, California,
Oh,
SoCal does not get the winter tip, so we're like a solid 72 sunny, living our best life.
fuck off, man. Yeah, it is, it's very cold. We didn't have school on Monday, um, and then it got still super cold, um, and then I have to drive for, like, 5 hours next week to go to Oklahoma City for a baby shower for my friend, and so I'm like, "All you weather needs to figure it out so that I can
Mhm.
make that drive because I'm hosting the shower, and they can't do it without me," and
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm going down, like, 3 days early just to, like, make
Yeah,
sure that I'm gonna be there on time.
absolutely. Oh,
I'm like, I'll
that's
move in
scary.
with you. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah.
Yeah. Great. Um, well, what have you been working on this week?
So, I actually just launched my own podcast last week.
Stop
So
it. What's it called? Plug
yeah,
it. Tell us all
it
about it.
it's called Brand Crimes and Other Offenses, where I kind of do like a true crime-esque feel for how brands and marketing is just like it's not we got the cases, we got the receipts on mistakes that are happening and how we can learn from it.
Okay, I love it. Are you doing, like, big, like, well-known brands, like a case kinda breakdown or, like
Yeah.
okay,
Not not too much, obviously, don't want, like, slander and whatnot,
sure.
but just anything that's been publicly spoken on, I kinda go couple layers deeper on, like, why those decisions were probably made and what was the thing that happened before the decisions were made and how could they have averted, either,
Yeah,
viral
yeah,
catastrophes or just, they fell off, so
yeah.
just speaking on those points.
Are you gonna talk about Cracker Barrel?
I did last episode. The
Shut
first
up! That is
You sh
hilarious. I haven't even listened yet. I didn't even know you had the podcast
so
out.
funny.
That is
Just
so fucking funny.
vaguely, just vaguely. Yeah,
Sure.
I try to do a couple different examples per episode just so it's not 100% one brand,
Yeah,
but did bring that up. But yeah, it's been fun. So this week it's kind of like I'm the queen of messy action, like genuinely have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
yeah.
So this week it's been learning a little bit. Luckily I have people helping me, but definitely want to learn the ins and outs. So this week is focused on that.
I love that. What is your overall intention with your podcast, being a service provider? What made
Yeah.
you wanna start one?
I'm a yapper, first and foremost.
Yeah.
And my background actually, like, outside of what I do, I grew up a professional dancer, and I taught dance for about 17 years. So, naturally, I'm an educator, and I've always been someone who loves to coach and loves to teach. So, for me, it was a way of bringing that passion into it without, like, preaching online of, like, teaching about things that no one cares about in
Mhm.
short form context. So, really wanted that. The goal obviously is to monetize. I want to build, secondary streams of income and whatnot. But ultimately it's really to lean into that educator role and just less promoting my business, more so just promoting conversations that aren't taking place enough or, to the depth
Yeah.
at which they deserve. So
Yeah.
that was kind of my intention. I'm very much the person that like I was so anti podcasts up until recently because I don't listen to them. I have ADHD. It's really hard for me to like grasp
Mhm.
and whatnot. So it took me a minute to even like comprehend even starting one, but then it just kind of hit. I got the idea and I was motivated by it. So then I was like,
Yeah.
all right, let's lean into that.
Yeah. Well, I will give you a little bit of a sneak peek. I mean, I launched this podcast for kind of similar reasons. I'm a yapper. I love education. I've been teaching for 15 years in this space, so that was a no-brainer. I really wanted to provide a little bit alternate voice for service providers who are looking to scale, and everyone is like, become a coach and sell digital offers, and this is how you scale. And I wanted to show a different way. Um, and so talking about that here, but I truly started it because I'm like, I just like talking and this is going to be a great channel. I love doing a voice memo. I'm an audio processor. And so I'm like, okay, this will be really easy. Girl, I went back and looked because I'm doing a collaboration with Riverside, actually, where we're recording right now. Shout out to Riverside.
Amazing.
And I created a video in partnership with them to talk about my favorite features about the platform and yada yada. To me, I only say yes to brand collaborations that can directly benefit my ideal client. So, like, just because it benefits me doesn't mean it maybe is gonna benefit them. And I really wanted to make sure it was gonna land, and so I love looking at data. So I went back and looked at all of my clients from 2025 and where did they come from, and because I don't work with a ton of clients, I can even if they didn't fill it out in a form, I can be like, "Okay, well, they said in that call,
Sure.
they listened to this episode or they saw this post on Threads or whatever." So I sourced everyone manually. I'm doing that automatically this year because I'm like, "Okay, well, I wanna know that data this year." But I went back and looked, girl, 27% of my clients came from my podcast last year.
Wow.
7%. That's 12 humans.
That's
12
incredible.
humans. Isn't that insane?
That's incredible. You
So
should be so
don't think
proud.
and I have no ads. And so, like, I know you say monetization. And so typically that's okay, let me have sponsors for the show, let me have ads, let me do whatever. And I've done that before. I've had a podcast that was a top 10 business podcast. We had a crap ton of ads. I mean, HelloFresh and Gusto
Yeah.
and like all of the things. And that was great, like doing ad reads and like getting paid to do that. But the amount of listeners that we had to have in order to kind of land those deals was
Yes.
a lot,
Yes.
and you don't need that many if you're a service provider, and so I encourage you to also think of it as potential lead pipeline for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, my plan for monetization's less ad just because I did a magazine prior. I used to be the way I got started digitally was through a blog, did a lot of brand partnerships, and it just didn't feel super authentic to me just because I could like something 1 month and the next month I hate it. So for me, it's more so like I wanna highlight individuals, kind of
Yeah,
if you think of like a magazine ad where there's like, you're highlighting brands, I wanna do more so actual founders versus, like, companies that really don't need more push, Like, I
right,
wanna
right.
highlight the underdogs that feel like they still need boost in visibility, so that's kind
Yeah.
of my train of thought in that process.
Yeah. The structure for this show, is, I do a solo episode every Tuesday and then an interview that airs every Thursday. And in
Yeah,
my solos, what I have found is, like, they're a lot shorter, so it's, 25 minutes, whatever. And it's one angle that I wanna talk about with my ideal client, but every episode, it's either, "Okay, yeah, you should go enroll in the thing because this is exactly what we do in my program," or, "You should go get this, free series," which leads people to that program, right? And it's such a low lift of, like, I'm already talking about it. It makes sense for me to segue into that,
yeah,
and I just hit record and do it, and I, suckered my husband to be a unpaid intern, and he finishes all the publishing, and he gets it to all the platforms, and so I'm like, "Yeah, it's low lift for me. Sounds great."
amazing, as he should.
As he should. Yes, exactly, and Riverside is definitely truly a huge part of that, and it makes it super easy.
Yes,
You know,
I love
shameless
that.
plug. Yeah,
I
it's great.
love.
Well, you'll definitely have to keep me apprised of how it progresses. What's your publishing schedule?
I'm doing twice a month right now. My agency this year is blowing up rapidly, so I'm like, "You know what? I'm also a single mom." So I'm like, "Let's just, like, baby step
For
everything
sure, for
and
sure.
not take off more than I can chew."
Yeah,
So, biweekly for now, but it'll be eventually weekly once I get my groove and I get my schedule and I can get all the things in place.
I love that. Okay, so you said the magic A word, agency. I wanna talk about that.
Yes.
A lot of people are very afraid of that word and
Uh-huh.
very nervous, and I do think it means I picture agency as kind of being in different tiers. They're all agencies, but there's like, well, micro agency kind of got popular in the last couple years, and that might be what you run. I love a micro agency. And then there's like the corporate agencies, right? Where there's like the building downtown with the name on the side of the building, and obviously some steps in between. What's the vibe of your agency, and what's the
Yeah.
progression of that been like?
I use agency I guess simultaneously with studio, but for me,
Yeah.
agency really definitely micro agency. My end goal for my business has always been to be having multidisciplinary sections of my business in which we can offer kind of like a one-stop shop. And so something for me that felt very inauthentic at the beginning when it's just me, solo founder, it's, just solo entrepreneur, was still calling my business an agency and saying we when it was just me.
Yeah.
And for me, it was very important that I set that parameter from the jump, not only to hold myself accountable for what my end vision is, but also as brand perception builds to know that this is not just like, one service provider offering XYZ.
Mhm.
So definitely in the team building phase right now, but ultimately we do a myriad of things, primarily branding and marketing, but it's very much with the intention of soon, if you want paid ads, if you want, retail store design, if you want this, if you want that, we have the capacity to do all of that and the team to support. But definitely at this point, micro.
Yeah, 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 okay. So do you have, contractors that you work with, or do you white label, outsource? What does that look like?
All the above.
Yeah.
I have contractors, white label, outsource, but I also do so many different things. I'm such a multi hyphenate individual with my career spanning so many different industries
Mhm.
that if I don't do it myself, then I have the people either on the team or within my circle that is an easy delegation out to.
Yeah, yeah. I just did a post on Threads, last week or so where I've talked about this on the show before, but the quick version of this is my business is kind of I consider into kind of 2 departments. One is the really heavy high-level implementation done for you side, and one is the done with you, we go through this together side.
Yeah.
Well, the implementation side is so, productized because that's my whole thing, right? It's this delivery or it's that delivery, and if this is the delivery you're picking, here's exactly what we need to do to implement that delivery. And so I've ran it through client after client after client at this point, and I'm like, "Okay, I think when I wrap up this client, I could, like, offload some of this stuff, and I could do the next step of productization, which is either outsourcing, white labeling, or bringing on a contractor for that." But as every service provider deals with is that cash flow in the runway, right? Well, I need the project and I need the cash of that project to feel confident in investing in the person to help me with that delivery. So kind of how does that work? And so I don't know, I had a little bit of an epiphany last week and I was like, Threads is popping off so well for me. I mean, it's how you got on the show, I
Yeah.
think. I think you saw my request for a guest on the show. Um, so I put out a post that was just like, "Hey, I'm building my Rolodex of people who are very tech savvy, who need project work, contract, one-time contract work. This is not ongoing, um, in a variety of different software skill sets. Fill out this form if you're interested." In, like, 2 days, I had, like, almost 40 people fill out the form, and I'm like, "Holy shit." So I decided to do just a Zoom, like, we all got on, I was like, "We're just gonna do an open house. I'm gonna let you know a little bit about who I work with, what we're doing, the cadence, the pricing, like, all of it."
Yeah.
My word of this year is, like, radical transparency, and so I'm just like, "Girl, come on, I'm gonna bring you into this entire thing, I'm gonna tell you exactly what's going on." And
Yeah.
so they basically let me know, like, of all the tools that I work with, how they rated their own proficiency in each of the software. So now I can kind of sort all of them of like, okay, my level 10 Airtable girlies are here, and my ClickUp
Yes.
girlies are here, and Go High Level is over here or whatever. And so now I can feel confident in pitching a higher price point project because I don't have to manage the design and the doing anymore because I can call on one of them and be like, "Who wants this project?" And it's a
Yes.
little first come, first serve, but I'm really excited for how that's gonna kinda roll out.
You should be. And that's something that I've also recently come to terms with too, where it's like I have, two people that I can rely on for not only my own agency needs, but also some client work too, where I'm very much kind of like the strategist. And then anything
Yes.
else that's repeatable, I can, delegate out. But two, where it's like, you get to this place where it's like the leads and the projects are coming faster than, your own capacity can hold.
Yeah.
The hiring per project really is the way to go because it helps that cash flow so much more than having, the salary or the
Yeah.
promise of, we're going to pay you X amount for, how many hours. Well, what if you have a slow season? What if you have a slow month? I
Exactly.
mean, we're all going to.
Yep.
It
Yep.
eliminates the
Revenue's
stress
gonna
a lot.
dip. Yep. And the focus shifts where, like, my
Yes.
projects because I do have the 2 departments, 'cause I feel like, very similar to you, a multi-hyphenate individual. Like, I wanna yap, I wanna educate, I wanna go to conferences, I wanna teach, I wanna strategize, I wanna build, right? I like my hands in all it's in the same lane, same niche. I've said the same thing for 15 fucking years, like, it's none of it's new. Just the medium of that, I guess, is different.
Absolutely.
But it's yeah, it's sitting in that advisory seat more and knowing that kind of the nitty-gritty of the tech can be handled. And one of the things I was just talking about with my bookkeeper, because we're the VIP day that I just told my 4-hour VIP day that I got off was with my bookkeeper, and so we look at 2025, we map out 2026, a cash flow plan, we do all the things. And so
Yeah.
there's a couple of adjustments to some pricing that I wanna be rolling out next year or this year, and I'm like, "Okay, when does it make sense to do this, and how do we stagger this?" And I really wanna be intentional this year about, okay, when projects end or payment plans end, I already have something lined up. There's not a dip there, or it's not a crash. I'm okay with the dip. It just can't go to nothing. And so we're, like, staggering everything, and we're looking at, okay, wow, like, these projects that have been 5K, 6K, 8K, 19K, there's a lot of wiggle room there to offload some of that task. And when it like I was saying, one of my surprise and delights that I do with my clients is when I'm building out their system, because it's either with, um monetization of your content if you're deciding to, like, start a Substack or start a podcast, but
Yeah.
you are a TEDx speaker, high-level consultant, and you need to make sure that this avenue is actually converting, or you have a lead pipeline, non-existent system, and you haven't been, like, following up with these people and you want to. It's either or one of those systems, or
Or
sometimes both. But anyways, I build all of that, connect it, but my surprise and delight is I input once the system is designed and approved, I bring in up to 2 years of your past data into that system because I think it's really helpful to see
yes.
trends and patterns and historical references.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a pattern girly, and so I'm like, "Well, we gotta have the data in there for me to see the patterns."
Please,
But I
please.
don't wanna input that data anymore. If I have to look at one more spreadsheet and
Huh?
upload and filter, I will probably lose my mind, and so I'm like, "Yes, I'm gonna call this girl, and she can plug in all this data for me."
100%. That I
Mhm.
love that though. That's a whole whole 'nother discussion, but there's not enough people who are paying attention to hindsight, it's always forward, forward, forward. It's like, "Okay, well, there's so much to learn from the past, like, let's
Yes,
have a quick little look."
yes. Let's take a I mean, it's quite literally what we pulled up today in my VIP day because I'm someone who I love to plan for growth and I wanna look, okay, what did I do last year and what am I doing this year? But I do it from a reality, like, what happened? Okay, so if my first year into my second year, I grew 11%, is that realistic to do that again? Should I double it? Should I make it lower? Like, what do those numbers look like? And spoiler alert, guys, as numbers get higher, those percentages mean higher numbers of growth, and sometimes that isn't repeatable, and that's okay. Like, if you doubled year 1 to year 2, you don't have to keep that momentum, that's fine. And so really looking at, like, how does that actually play out? And yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
absolutely. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that.
I'm really excited about getting to and I just love community, part of that networking of where it's like, I absolutely feel like some of the people who are on that call are looking for their first couple of clients, and they're looking to build their portfolio, so to speak, of their skill set and what they're doing. They're all proficient in something, and so they've definitely worked in systems before or in some capacity, but, being able to send another small business owner some work a couple times a quarter feels really good too.
For them too.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Do you see yourself ever doing an employee situation?
I have in the past, and up until the past, I would say 9 months, I was very much in, like, a feast and famine state of business, and it was all self-sabotage based, which I can now formally admit. But, at that point, I didn't like the idea of if something were to happen, whether it's personal or whatever, and I'm driving the main ship, like health scares. If for some reason I need to back out on business, I don't want someone else's income to deplete because of me. And the weight of that bared heavily on me. So I feel like at some point, maybe. But I think right now with where I'm at, it works really well to have more of that contractor role, and I feel like it's also empowering for them too because they get to not have to say no to other projects and
Yeah,
whatnot, so I think it benefits where I'm at. In the future, though, with the way that I would hope my agency turns out, absolutely,
yeah,
but currently, no.
yeah, yeah. I've also done the employer route before. At one point in my previous business that I co-founded, we had 9 full-time employees. And it was my husband worked there, like, it was a big deal. We
Yeah,
had 401k, insurance, benefits, all the things, and it
amazing.
was a company I had created. Um, Left that in 2023 for a myriad of reasons, but it was it's a lot of pressure, and it's a
Yes,
lot of I had gone through, when we were hiring our first employees and taking some of our contractors who had been with us for 4 or 5 years and offering them an employment position. Some of them took it, some of them didn't. But I realized then, oh, me showing up as, like, a manager of contractors is very different than how I need to show up as, like, a leader of employees, a
yes,
boss, right? And so I went through this year-long leadership training program, which was incredible, learned a lot. But the part that I never seemed to process enough when I was in the position, I feel like I could maybe do it now or in the nearish future, but I didn't I didn't know how to process that nervous system regulation of being responsible for someone else's livelihood.
yeah,
And I was always as the owners, we were always the people who took the cut if there was a dip in revenue or whatever, and, sacrificed so much for the people who committed to working with us and being there, and it was a lot. It was a lot of pressure, and it was a lot of, like, okay, well, when you run a business where all of a sudden you have to make this amount of money to keep the lights on, business feels different,
it does,
and I didn't
drastically.
like it.
Yeah, and that's fair. My daughter, she's autistic, and it's just she and I'm 100% financially responsible, and
Mhm.
that alone is so much pressure in the adaptability of the day to day where it's like, I created this business out of necessity. I was fired during labor, so it was like, "Okay, great. We got." Oh, yeah, yeah,
Did
yeah,
you sue?
100%, and I
Good
won.
for you.
Thank
Good for
you.
you.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, that was the onset of, like, then divorce and all these different things, but
Yeah.
the pressure of life was so pressurized that,
Mhm.
the business started out of necessity, and I really wanted because I love what I do so much, I wanted it to remain a little bit of an escape from
Yes.
reality, where
Yes.
having those employees and having that additional pressure of like, "Oh, shit, it's either you or me, and it has to be like, I have to prioritize me because of this little one." I didn't want
Hello.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
it's a
How old's your
lot.
kiddo?
She's 7.
I have a 9-year-old, and she's great.
Oh.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's such an interesting age. I feel like the jump from 6 to 7 was quite a lot, like,
Yes.
these are
It
falling out left and right.
Yeah.
She's growing super fast. I'm like, "Wait, hold up. You've only been 7 for, like, literally almost 2 months.
I
Like,
know.
who are you? What have you done to
Who
me?"
is this human? Mhm.
Yeah.
8.5 going into 9. She just turned 9 this month, so we haven't experienced 9 for very long, but it's a good one. I really enjoy this stage.
Yeah. I feel like the crazy, like, hyperactivity maybe it's just my kid, but maybe at a 9-year-old, it levels out a teeny bit to where there's a little bit more kind of, like,
It
self-awareness and those
definitely is
moments.
still there, but it's in this, like, "Okay, I'm gonna freak out for a second and then sit in the, like, yeah, that was wild of me." Like
It yeah, I feel like from what I've seen of other friends who have, like, that age around that age,
Mhm.
the emotional regulation really starts to kick in where they're like, "Oh, wait,
Yes.
hold on, I have the tools to support what I'm feeling," where before it was still a little bit, like, erratic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It definitely gets better, and it just man, sometimes, like, we're running an errand together, we're doing a hobby together, and we're just chit-chatting, and I'm just like, "You are a whole human, a
Yeah.
whole ass mini adult who is just the coolest and funniest and, like, all kindest, all the things," and I'm like, "How did I do I didn't know what I
Because
was doing. I
mom
still
and
don't know what
dad
I'm
are
doing."
fabulous. I mean, it
Yeah,
says so much about you as a parent and your husband, so, like,
this is
kudos to
hard.
y'all. Oh, it's so hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so hard.
beyond. You
I
only see the fun moments. You only see, like, the birthday parties and, like, the fun moments, and then you get into it, you're like, "No one told me about these parts."
no, no. And it's so interesting, like, not to go into, like, childhood trauma, but
Sure.
I'm a child of divorce like a lot of people,
Yeah.
and, I had a very unique experience growing up. My parents divorced very young, and then my dad immediately moved out of state, and so from the time that I was 3-ish until 18, every other weekend, every summer, every other holiday, I'm in a different state, and so we drove a lot, and then when I turned 6, I started flying by myself, and so I would fly by myself every Friday night and Sunday night to Kansas City to Tulsa, to Kansas City to Tulsa, and back. Very unique life experience for sure,
Sure.
and I obviously only have that experience, that's just mine, right? And I have my experience of my parents, of being raised by a single mom and then visiting dad over here, and then he got remarried, and then all these things, and so I'm still with my husband and love that for us, and I'm like, I don't know how to actually parent with a partner. I don't know what that looks like. I've never seen that, and I wasn't raised in a two-parent household at all, like, at
Yeah.
all, and I'm just like sometimes I'm like, "Why are you here and saying stuff? This is just my job." But yeah,
Isn't that
he's here
funny? It's
and
so
very
funny.
helpful.
But it's funny you say that because my experience is the complete opposite. So, like, my parents are still together 45 plus years, best friends. They're, like, obsessed with each other.
Oh my
And
god,
so
I
for
love
me,
that
it's
for them and you.
totally, but now being, like, I've been a single parent since she was 10 months old, it's like, where's the other counterpart to this shit that I'm
Hello.
dealing like,
That's
hello?
wild. Truly the opposite experience. That is
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah.
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 No, I don't it's always one of those things where it's interesting because being a single parent is something where I because I was raised in that way, I have seen it and my mom's mom was the same way, and my aunt did, and this aunt, like, my entire family is full of it. And it was always one of those things in the back of my mind where it's just like, "Oh, well, that's most likely gonna happen in my life, and I know that I could do it because 'cause I've seen it, and that's been all the examples." And so to still be here, we are 19 years in, which is fucking crazy,
I love
and so it's very like, "Oh, I'm still doing this. Okay, that's interesting." Okay,
It's
great.
incredible, though.
It's wild.
Incredible. You clearly just broke the generation.
Yeah,
I don't
and
wanna
I
call
mean,
it a
I
curse.
sought out to, I tried to really hard,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so far so good, so we'll see, we'll
That's
see.
amazing, though. Good for
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys. It's
I
hard. Marriage
couldn't
is hard too.
marriage is hard too.
Yeah,
I could imagine raising a kid on my own just because I've seen it and it was my own
absolutely.
example. I couldn't imagine running a business and raising a kid on my own. That
Yeah,
is
that's been interesting. And then add in the autism, and it's just like it's
yeah,
a speech over here. Yeah, but
yeah,
we're
girl.
figuring it out.
Do you have community?
Yes, definitely have support. My parents are nearby, feeling nearby. We have great support in that aspect. I will say from like support on the autism side of things, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but it's pretty shitty.
Well,
Um,
and autism in a girl too, so that I feel
yeah,
like it's very looked at very differently.
very much so. Very much
Mhm.
so. So in that regard, still figuring that out. But yeah, I mean we've found our rhythm. We've found what works for us. I found what works for me for business. So I feel like very lucky because I know that's not always the case.
Yeah, yeah, I love that for you. I mean, kudos to you, truly. It's
Thank
struggling a
you.
lot and yeah. Okay, so going back to earlier, you said, your agency is scaling like crazy right now, and so you're committing to the podcast what you feel like you can commit to. What does scaling like crazy mean to you, and what's going on over there?
My business has had quite a few iterations from I started in brand strategy and web design. Then I started organically getting tons of interest for social media management and marketing. Did that, got burnt out because that's a high execution
Yes, it is.
versus brand strategy. So
Yeah.
I'm at this space now, ironically, where I shifted back to brand strategy and marketing a little bit end of last year. But again, social media is just popping off for me. That's just what people want. So
It's
I've
a
been very
sexy thing.
it's very sexy and it's more tangible than saying we're gonna work through all the things in your business. Like,
100%. I
it's
feel
just
like it's one of those departments. I like to think of all of this world, this online
Mhm.
business departments. Social media marketing is one of those things that's really easy to sell and really difficult to execute on, like,
100%.
execute well. And so it's just
Absolutely.
like, yeah, anyone could start a social media agency tomorrow and you would get booked out.
Yes.
Keeping those clients and getting them results and actually growing is the tricky part.
Yes. And that's
Mhm.
where I saw the gap in both. I guess I should also say, like, my podcast is very much a little bit about calling out brand strategists as well, because I feel like
Do it.
there's so many brand strategists who just don't know what the fuck they're doing, and
Mhm.
marketing strategists that don't know what the fuck they're doing. So for me in my business, it's how do we marry the two, and how do they lean so heavily on each other? And if you don't have one solid aspect of it, you're going to fail in the
Yes.
other.
Yes.
So that's what I do. So this year well, I would say probably November of last year, started getting a lot of opportunities. Majority of my business is word of mouth and referrals. And the opportunities are kind of compounding on themselves right now. So like they're selling me to their, subsidiaries or whatever. So we're just getting a lot of interest right now, which is amazing. Definitely growing in both the amount of I'm able to charge clients for the amount of work that's being completed, the caliber of client, but also just the opportunities as well. So it's been really fun, but I feel like every time I try to steer away from social media, it just comes back
Yeah.
tenfold. So we're rolling
And
with it.
and then I look at that as an opportunity of saying, "Okay, fuck it. Like, if this is what we're offering, how can I make it execute really well and
Yes.
manage it really easily behind the scenes? What are the
Support it.
systems that can support me?" Exactly, exactly.
Yes.
Who are the people I can bring in? And and also, like, I'm of the camp, and I feel like you are too, of like, if you're the service provider and someone's hiring you for this niche or this department, you're the expert. So it is your job to tell the client, "Hey, we're not doing that because it's not gonna work. So we're gonna do this." And, like, obviously do it in the tone that's gonna work for you and your clients, but,
That's my
like,
tone.
right, that's the tone
It.
we're bringing, and I'm just like, "No, we're not fucking posting on Reels 17 times a day.
No,
You're not
we're not.
dancing. You're a dentist. What are we fucking talking about?" Yeah, I don't know who your clients are, but
But I don't have dentists yet. That would be fun, but it's true, and I feel like a big part of the boundary I had to put into place was if you're not willing to work on your brand strategy, then I'm not the person to hire, and that's
right,
okay
right.
because
Yeah,
I'm not gonna enjoy working with you anyways if every time I'm coming to you saying, "This isn't working, we need to do X," and you fight me on it,
uh-huh.
you're gonna blame me in the end anyways. I don't want that.
Exactly. Yep. I'm working with someone for a little bit of social media marketing, a very, very tiny container. And I don't want to tell anybody yet because I want to share, I want to drop all
Hush,
the
hush.
results on you all when I have it. I'll tell you
100%.
off when we get off the record. But I'm working with this person and we were kind of DMing because my package like starts today or something. And so she was asking me she had sent me a Google Doc to kind of like review some stuff and I had left some comments. And I had asked a question like, should we add a call to action? Should we add the link here? Is what I was asking. And so she came back and she was like, we certainly can. Like, tell me what you think. We generally do this, 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 and that. And I go, no, I want you to tell me what to do. Of the people you've worked with, because I know you've worked with great people and you've gotten good results, what works? And she's like, oh, well, it works when we do this. And I said, I want to do that. Let's do that.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
sometimes I think that we even like, it's not imposter syndrome, it's not I don't know what it is, but it's just like, "Well, what do you think?" "Bitch, I don't know. I want you to tell me."
Yes. Literally
Lovingly.
though. Literally though. I have one client right now where they've been super successful and they brought me on to help kind of like with their own capacity, they hit a ceiling. So I'm very much fine with being a student. You tell me what's been working. How did you get your success up until this point? I'll come with new ideas, but then you have to filter it through. Does this work with the existing strategy we've already I don't have to come to the table with a new strategy. If we already know what's working, let's just elevate it and let's just
Right.
build upon, and
Exactly.
I think the
But
ego
is
tends to
it
get
really working? Like, let's look at the data. Like
you have to look at the data 100%.
uh-huh.
I can say for them, yes, it has. But that's not to say any new ideas that come to the surface for what they want to build on. We're going to need to strategize those into the play because everything thus far has been for what's existed. but what's going to come is gonna need to get that strategy. But I think our ego gets in the way so much of, like, if someone hires us, we have to come to the table with new, new, new.
For
No,
sure.
like, to your
No, we
point,
don't. What's
look at
been
the
working?
pattern.
What's been
100%.
working? Yep.
Yeah.
What do you find yourself working with a particular industry or niche or type of business owner?
No, I've been all over from, like, OBGYN to gyms to dancers to music producers to
Yeah.
influencers, but I will say lately this for how this year is kind of shaping up, it's very entertainment music industry based right now, which I
So
fucking love.
cool.
Yeah, I
That is
love it.
so cool.
It's so
I love
fun.
hearing from people who work outside of, like, the
Been
cesspools
warm.
circle of that I've been in for 15
Of service
years.
provider? Yeah, yeah,
Mhm,
100%, and that's where my
mhm.
business started, but I felt like that's kind of to the topic we were just saying, I felt like new ideas were almost like shunned, because it's just
Yes.
not what they're seeing regurgitated, and I was like,
Yep.
"This isn't gonna work because my brain only works on new ideas." Like, I'm always gonna come to the table with something new, and if you're gonna reject everything, then
Then this
you
isn't
don't
gonna
wanna
be fun.
evolve. Yeah, it's not fun for me and you don't wanna evolve. So,
Mhm.
being outside of that space, I still dabble in it, but being outside of that space where it's very much visual centric and creative direction centric, which is where I thrive, that's
Yeah.
where I'm like, "Okay, this is
Yeah.
cool, this is fun,
Yep.
I'm able to do what I'm used to doing," which is dance, like,
Yeah.
everything's
Yeah.
fun from there.
I have so many conversations with people about, like, I swear to God, if you want a confidence booster, work with someone outside of the online creative like, business
Literally.
industry, literally anywhere outside of that space, because my consulting clients are outside of that space, and I can come to a meeting and they think I am the smartest, coolest, most strategic person they've ever spoken with, and I'm like,
And they're so
that's just called a
appreciative.
workflow, babe."
But they're so appreciative too. They put you on it. Like, I have one client outside of this space for their if they're listening, hi, but probably not. But
Hi.
they had a dormant account of 10 years. They finally came back to business and online. And like they hit 1K followers, which is like, for me, it's like, okay, that's bare minimum. They sent me a floral arrangement for like their appreciation. I'm like, where has this been? Like, this is amazing.
Where's my edible arrangement, you guys?
But so sweet though, like that people outside of this space really do count all the milestones, baby or big, and it's
Yeah.
really refreshing.
I love to hear that example because truly in this space, it's like 1K, you should have had that just when you opened your account. Like, what are
Period.
you even doing? Why didn't
You're
your mother
failing,
start your
actually.
Instagram for you when you were a baby and grew your account for you and then gave it to you?
Huh? Literally though.
That's gonna be the new thing is, like, nepo social media accounts where it's, like, parents who've started their children, because I know plenty of people who have an
Yes.
Instagram account for their child,
Yep.
and then it's gonna be like, "Here's this account, you have 50,000 or 500,000 followers," or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
if
so
you don't, you're
funny.
failing. Yeah,
Right, if
literally.
you don't, you're failing. Yeah, 100%. That's so funny. The reason why I brought up dentist earlier, my mom is a marketing, she's an account manager for a dental
Mhm.
marketing agency, and her
I love
clients, her only clients are dentists. That's what they do. Their only
I've
people they
seen one
serve
of
are
those.
dentists,
Yes.
and she's been there for, 3 or 4 years at this point, and she, like, did a hard pivot. She left the physical therapy world and retired after COVID and then went online and now works for this, like, dental marketing agency. It's so crazy. But just, like, not just her staying in that position for 4 years, but, like, that agency in particular picking that lane of dentist, they are the experts in what
It's
works for
it's genius.
dentists,
Mhm.
right? And it's her all of her conversations are like, "Nope, doctor so and so, we don't need to do that because this is what works and here's all the data and like here's what it is. And like we know when we can get you more calls and you train your front desk to be salespeople and you do this, like here's how marketing can lead to conversions and like all of these things." And I'm like, you guys are so smart in this one weird little subset of knowledge, and that's so
Yeah.
cool.
I think it's genius for the right person.
Yes.
I tried to niche down so many times and
I've
I
thought
have
about it so many times.
I have ADHD. I literally cannot. And then
I think I would
I went
die.
to the complete I'm s I love that. But I also went to the opposite, like, coin
Yeah.
where I was like, I don't wanna create competition for my clients either, but for her, it's genius because dentists don't know what the fuck social media is, so to have someone who knows this also, I'm sure dentists are interesting to where, like, you'll literally find 5 on the same street, like, they do not
Yes.
care about competition
No.
whatsoever. It
No.
really is just reputation.
It's
So in that
reputation.
it makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yep,
Yeah,
it's the vibe that you have, it's what your insurance covers versus not, like, I could love
totally.
this dentist and still not be able to go to them if my insurance doesn't
Exactly.
cover, you know what I mean?
100%.
Mhm.
100%.
And they're
I
all
th
over
I
the country, so
Mhm. I think if it's the same one that I'm thinking of, I've seen her stuff, and I think if it's a she, I think she's genius because she's so
so
good
good.
at it. Yeah.
Mhm.
But then,
It's so good.
I feel like that's also spiraled into, like, med spa specific and all the different things, which it's great.
Well, and what's even cooler is that somehow my mom has finagled her way to all of the accounts she manages are all female-led dental practices who only have women who work there, and 1 man, but his is like a dental med spa, and it's like red light facial dental therapy and, like, all of the it's like I'm like, "Yeah, this is so cool."
So
Mhm,
cool. Can you
mhm,
imagine,
yeah.
like, getting a pedicure while, like, getting a root
Can
canal?
you
I would sign up
imagine?
for that.
They
I
do a
would like
red light
that.
bath. I'm
That's
sorry.
amazing. But,
Imma go
like
for a quick clean, and I'm gonna
like,
go hop in the tub.
everyone has anxiety for the dentist. It's genius. Like, let me come relax you while you go through, like, a very anxious procedure, even if
Yes,
it's just,
yes,
like, a quick checkup. I
a
fucking hate the
cleaning.
dentist.
I hate going to the dentist.
So
It's, like,
much.
in my file of, like, anxious girl, like,
Yes.
and I come in like a deer in the headlights with my headphones on, and I took a
Yes.
gummy, and I'm like, they're like,
Yes.
"We just need to clean your teeth, you insane person." Mhm.
Psycho
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah. It's me, it's fine, it's me. I love that. So, well, kinda going back to it's been the topic in my brain. I feel like sometimes with ADHD, you can also hyperfixate on doing the thing you know you're going to hate, where,
Yes.
like, I have a pretty high confidence that I would not like niching down that specifically.
Yeah.
However, I also love the concept of just, like, hyperfixating on, "Okay, in my program, if I only served copywriters or photographers or web designers, how unique then and depth could I provide in that thing if it only worked for those people?"
Yeah.
I don't know. The jury's out.
It's hard. I feel like on one hand, it takes away all the, like, overthinking, decision fatigue, analysis paralysis of like, "Well, I need to cater to all these different people." But at the same
Uh-huh.
time, if you are someone who is multi-passionate or, loves people, which I feel like you do, then it
Mhm.
alienates, being able to explore and learn and experience people outside of what, you're catering
Yeah.
to.
I know. My whole, like, shtick, though, is, like, productize and create the template and systematize and repeatability, and, like, I've gotten it to that point for
Yeah.
sure, and I am realizing that as I do, I'm answering support tickets or I'm leaving strategic Loom videos when people submit work for me to review, it's this same 80% of the advice and the strategy is the same no matter what, but then
Yeah.
there's that, like, 20% of customization depending on who I'm talking to. And I'm
Absolutely.
like, does it bother me that I'm doing 20% customization, or could this be even more kinda gangbusters if it was just 1 round? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
For all my
I
sold out services clients listening, if you think I should dive in on your industry specifically, message me.
I love that. Yes, I
Mhm.
love that. Get the feedback.
Yeah, 'cause I also think that that makes it really cool for your branding and your positioning and the
Absolutely.
communities that you're in. Like, I do feel like it opens up a lot, even if it
But
closes some
when
areas.
you need statistically, when you niche down, your positioning amplifies 10 times more because you're one of one. Something I talk about so much in both content and just with clients is like category definement, but also like category ownership and creating your own
Mm,
category. And for
mm,
me, I had to change my way of thinking where it's not a niche, but it's the service or it's the skill set or it's the talent versus who's
yeah,
being served or who's on the opposite end of that specific thing. And
Yeah.
that for me has benefited me more this year and end of last year more than trying to figure out if I'm for one industry. It's more so what about what do I do is so unique and how do I then push that and own
Yep.
that wins.
Yep, and I think that that's the angle that I've also taken for the last 2 years, one-on-one service providers who wanna scale without creating digital offers, without
Yeah,
becoming a coach, who want to scale their service work, but they're at capacity. Okay, well,
yeah,
how do we do that? We do that with productization and going all in on the result that you offer and streamlining and whatever. So
absolutely.
yeah, I definitely feel like there's a phase 1 of dialing it in that I've done over the past 2 years, which feels really good, and it's always like, "Okay, but what could happen if" Have you ever read the book, Built to Sell?
No, I have it in my cabinet right
Okay,
there,
I
but
do
I
think
haven't
you would
read it.
like it. It's very short, so, like, you
Yeah,
would get through it really quickly.
yeah.
It's written as a fable, and so it's not a boring business book. It's a story about made up people in a made up scenario
Oh,
to
I like
illustrate
that.
their point, so it's a lot easier to understand. But the whole concept is, this guy who runs an agency who they design billboards and logos and branding elements and business cards and brochures and like all of the things, right? He is the founder, and he has salespeople who aren't converting. He has account managers who are quitting left and right, and he can't figure it out, and he can't scale. And so he goes to this mentor, and the mentor is like, "Well, you need to like dial in on like your one result and the thing that you do." And so he like has them go through these exercises, and it turns out that because I think the mentor was like, "What's the thing right now that you could kind of identify as a repeatable process, a
Mhm,
framework of how you do something uniquely? Again, not the niche, not the industry, but how you do it is really unique." And he was like, "Oh, well, our logo design is super unique. We have this phase and this process and this, and I could easily train someone to do this. And then it heads into whatever." And so he was like, "Great, cut everything else, go all in on logos, charge $10,000 for a logo, and you've got a scalable agency." And so it goes through his journey of making those changes and finding how much easier it is to train a sales team when you're only selling logos, to train a design team when you're only designing logos, a customer support person, all of the things. And in the end, he, was a gajillionaire and yada, yada, yada. But
yeah,
it's that concept of like, even if you're not, I recommend the book to a lot of agency founders, even if you'd never plan to sell, but
yeah.
like, what can I do behind the scenes to go all in on the thing that I'm really fucking good at doing and the result I'm proud of?
Absolutely. It makes a world of a difference, and I think so many people get caught up in having to go all in on one thing because they alienate the other things that they love, but it just opens more up for once that one thing now operates cleanly, you can extract yourself and go do the same thing on the next part and
Exactly.
scale that way, scale wide versus deep.
Yep. Yep. Well, just a little bit ago, you gave us I think a little bit of a nugget of maybe some of your own brand philosophy, strategy, wisdom that you kind of walk your clients through. And I would love for you to share, something else to listeners. These are service providers who maybe have DIY'd their own brand up until this point, because a lot of them are very creative. So they're talented enough, if they're not brand designers already, they're talented enough to get where they've been. What is kind of their next element? These are people who, have maybe they've reached their first six figures and they're looking to ramp up and increase their visibility, increase their capacity. What should they be thinking about right now?
Positioning, first and foremost.
Girls,
Yeah.
listen. Kids, what have I said? What have I been saying? Okay, I call this your authority anchor and the positioning of your authority and your offer. But go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, it's so easy, and I think you said this towards the beginning, but it's so easy to say you're gonna start a business, like create your Instagram account or
Uh-huh,
convert your
uh-huh.
existing one and just go, and you're gonna get clients. But it's at some point, it's usually around the 100K mark where you start to get a little stagnant and things start to, slow down a bit. And getting to 250 is so much harder than 100. If you thought 100 was hard, just wait. But the position really makes everything different where it's like, okay, great. You have this business, but now why the fuck does it even matter? Like
Yep,
comparatively to everyone else that people are looking at and probably price shopping, why are you different? How are you different? And how do you claim space in your industry? And that really comes back down to category definement. And it really is I hate this phrase, but I say it all the time, but it's becoming one of one. And everyone I believe when they hear that, feels like, well, that's so hard when, there's 8 billion people in the world
Mhm.
and so many people on Instagram and yada, yada, yada. But it really is finding that one part, whether it doesn't even have to be tied to your service, but finding the one thing that makes you non duplicatable, where no
Mhm.
one can duplicate what you're doing. And that then branches out into visuals and colors and palette and tone of voice and all the things, but it stems at the root of why do you exist and why does it matter comparatively to everyone else?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, and I think it's so funny of when I interview guests on this show and they make a point about their expertise and how I can very clearly see that reflected in something I've done before or I'm in the process of doing. And, for the transparency of listeners, you all know I'm in going into year 3 of this iteration of my business. I've been in this industry for 15 years, but this iteration of my business is going into year 3. And I'm about to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of my core offer, right? I decided last year to refine one offer and only sell that thing for an entire year, come hell or high water. And it was the biggest challenge for myself and the best result I could have ever imagined. And so I'm going into 2026 and now my commitment is I'm sticking with this core offer for 3 years. That is my bold statement now. And so now going into year 2 of that offer, year 3 of my business, I've DIY'd my brand up until this point. It's definitely gotten me good enough. I do pay for professional photos. I think that that's very important. I picked some cute colors. I've certainly changed my fonts. I've changed my colors, like whatever, right? No one cares. I finally hired a brand designer for the first time ever.
I
Ever.
love.
My ex business partner was a graphic designer, so I've never had to hire anyone before. And so she's getting started later, well, probably at the beginning of next month. And I've been working on my copy and like repositioning because it's exactly that. I'm doubling down on the things that I've been saying and like putting, like pouring the concrete in the flag on the hill that I'm dying on instead of just holding it there. That's kind of the visual of like what I feel like. And I'm excited about the brand elements getting to finally help me show up in the way that I feel like I can and want to, but I haven't been able to create because I'm not a designer. And that's year 3. That's year 3.
And that's okay. That's beautiful. And you should be so
Mhm.
excited. But I think,
Yeah.
so many people lean into, again, because it's sexy and tangible, they lean into the colors and the fonts and everything first and foremost because it's the quickest and easiest thing to do on Canva. But where I think a lot of people get wrong is the reason and the decisions behind, or the reason behind the decisions they're making. A lot of times it's personal based. But what I try to teach all my clients is the emphasis has to be on your audience because the reason why we think of, our favorite brand for whatever category immediately is because there's an aspirational piece there and we see ourselves in that brand. They did that intentionally. That's marketing 101. So when we create our brands based off of personal preference, you're actually alienating a huge amount of leads because they don't see themselves in your brand. They see you in your brand. And that's
Yep.
what we call that embodiment. That's actually alienation.
Okay. Okay. For the sake of this could go into a whole other tangent, maybe we can try to keep it tight, but here's where my brain is at. And I'm not trying to call out anyone in specific, so we're not naming names here.
No
I have felt like in the past year and a half, 2 years that okay, tell it to me again, embodiment versus what?
alienation.
Alienation. Okay. That alienation has been happening more and more often because I think, and I'm just gonna ramble and you tell me your
Oh,
professional insights. I have seen like we do the spectrum, right? Where like everyone goes one way for branding and then everyone goes the other way. We were all so pastel and soft and floral for so long that then it's like, okay, super bold and colorful. And then it's all right, black and creams and whites and really basic and documentary. And like I can see those as trends and patterns and whatever. And then I think everyone felt like they could catch the trends and they could catch the patterns of it all. So they're like, I'm gonna completely go off the rails and I'm going to make this so personal and so um funny and so, my brand mascot's a pickle or something, and I don't sell pickles, but I'm gonna be a pickle, and then my whole branding is about pickles, and then I'm using words that are like fermented and vinegar and pickled and this and it becomes this entire
Gimmick.
thing, and I personally hate that, and I don't like experiencing brands and interacting with brands that show up like that, and it feels like it's distracting to
It's
me.
gimmicky. It's gimmicky,
Right.
100%. Yeah.
But is that me bringing boomer vibes to this conversation?
No, I think it's
That's how I
I
feel.
I get you, and I'm right there with you, but from my perception, I feel like everyone was told last year specifically, you need a personal brand. If you don't have a personal brand, you're gonna fail. So everyone took that as like, oh shit, like I have to be the face of the brand and it has to be me and it has to be Sasha as brand strategist. If that was the case, girl, I would have no clients. I'm a like I'm a mess. Like what? But I feel like people took that and ran with it because that was their way of being different, was owning
Mhm.
who they are authentically. But as a business, I'm sorry, if Costco had, pulled that shit on their CEO, like, and the CEO's now doing all the things he loves, like, no,
Right.
that would not work. And I think
But we're
because
also
of
not
this,
trying to be Costco, so where's the middle ground?
well, and that's the thing that I feel like the hard part with the online space specifically is it's this weird matrix of just like regurgitation and just everyone pulling inspo from the same thing. Like you said, is a cesspool, right? And it's very incest. I'm gonna butcher that word right now.
Incestual.
Thank
Mhm.
you. It
Mhm.
very much is on the terms of ideas and vision. And that's where it's like, okay, well, what does your brand do? I'm a copywriter. Okay, great. Well, everyone's a copywriter. What's unique about you? What's your method? And then how do we translate that visually? Because naturally, as humans, we are visual individuals. We
Yeah.
are attracted
Yeah.
visually. That's the first thing we notice how people are smile and eyes. Well, what are the smile and eyes of your brand? It's not a
Mhm.
pickle, for fuck's sake. It's not. If you're a copywriter, why is the pickle typing? That doesn't make sense. Why is the pickle typing? But how do we take that quirkiness in a way that
Right.
works, I just feel like people, and it goes back to what I was saying, I feel like people don't have a filter on their brand decisions. They just go reactively and emotional based
Mhm.
reactions because A, that drives dopamine. They can check something off their to-do list and it feels like they're moving the needle forward, but actually they're just
Mhm.
very like they're digging their grave, you know?
Yeah. So what are the questions we can ask ourselves, or where do we draw inspiration from if we do want to inject personality and life and color and vibes into our brand? Because I feel like the people have taken, okay, if I'm not going to be a brand personality, then it's back to cream and black, and I don't want that either. And so how can we show up in this colorful, fun way if that's the vibe, in a way that's not pickle based?
I'm gonna go eat pickles after this because it sounds
Do
pretty
I
good.
I love it. I love a pickle.
I do. I think I have 2 very, like, ancient there's gonna age me responses to this.
These are from a
Response
fortune cookie. Uh-huh.
Right. Response number 1 is you have to look at your industry from the space of research. When did your industry begin? Who were the initial leaders of your industry? How has like what are the varying degrees that your industry has gone through all shifts and everything, right? You need to know your industry so you can find the gaps and you can find the holes of, you know what? This has never existed. So how do I translate that visually? Then to do so visually, go to the fucking library, go to the art department, go to the art section, pull from real inspo, not just what's
Mhm,
being regurgitated through AI. Like
mhm.
that's half the problem too. It's like you can say back to the pickle just because I'm really liking this. You can say, I want to see a unicorn pickle flying through the sky. And
And
great.
you're
Now
gonna get it.
that doesn't mean people want to see that. No one has interest in that whatsoever. But I think if we can go through, you know, the history and evolution of us as a society and a world, what have people gravitated towards? If I know that for my agency, people that I attract naturally are artists, creatives, they're innovators, they're visionaries. Okay, they're already thinking outside the box. Who
Mhm.
led that sort of thinking artistically? Who led that sort of thinking in other industries? What did they do? And this is time. this takes a lot of time to achieve, right? But that's the
Yeah.
point if you want something that
Yeah.
sustains. But then you can pull inspo and then you can actually create something organically that people can resonate with versus
Yeah.
just thinking up something that's quirky and gimmicky that's going to last a year and you're going to rebrand probably in 6 months anyway. So there's your
Right.
down the drain.
Okay. This is having me reflect so much because, like I said, my branding project starts in like a couple of weeks. We're waiting on my
Mhm.
copy to be done. My copy is so good. I wrote it.
I
It's
believe it.
so good. I
Mhm.
wrote it through some like expert insights and trainings and reviews and whatever, but it's very good. Um, I What's really funny is that, like, okay, so you can see behind me these colors and this art and whatever. This is
Yeah.
the vibe of my brand, but it's
Mhm.
not the vibe of like me and my house, right? Like my house is a little bit more moodier than this, but I've always this has always been my office vibes, right? I feel like office me shows up a little bit differently. And I love to see that reflected in my brand. If I never see another like neutral cream in my life, I that would be great.
It'd be a good day. Yeah.
Um, right. So when I had my initial conversation with my brand person, I really wanted to pour into it. I'm an art school kid as well. I went to school for art. I have an art degree. I create art. I made that. I made this over here. Like it's all
Mhm.
right. And so
Yeah.
I want art and media to be in my brand. I'm a very I love layers and I love collages and I love pattern and I love color and in my work. And my concern now, like kind of after this conversation, is like, okay, how am I going to make sure I'm achieving that without it feeling gimmicky? Like without it being like, well, there's the scrapbook girl and like that's what her brand looks like. I don't want it to be too over the top of having its own kind of vibe. I want it to reflect and feel, connected for my ideal people as well. So I don't know.
I would I mean, this goes for everyone. I would look at, what type of clients do you naturally attract, And are they art people? Are they inspired by different mediums? And if they are, then you're on the right track. And I think
They
you can
are, yes.
beautiful. And you can so beautifully tie in. And this is where kind of like marketing and brand strategy play in that I'm so passionate about. You can achieve all of what you just said through your messaging versus having to actually visually represent it.
Yeah.
Or you can pull the other string where you're visually representing it and not so much in the copy, and there's that
Mhm.
balance, that fluidity. But I think I was just talking about this on my podcast episode that I recorded today, where it's like my grandma and I think my grandma, but in my house growing up, it was always like fashion was the thing. I went to fashion school, all the things. And I remember one piece of advice was before you leave the house, take off one thing, whether it's a
Uh-huh.
neck, and it
Uh-huh.
really is that state of refinement where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, if you love scrapbooking, go ahead and brand all the scrapbooking, but then go back to it and maybe remove a piece of tape, remove
Right.
a
Right.
little,
Right.
and be able to lean into negative space and minimalism more than having to like throw all ideas at the wall.
Yeah. 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 It'll be interesting. I'll keep you apprised of how it's shaping
Please
up just
do.
'cause
Please
you can be
do.
nosy. Man, that gave me so much to think about, and stress out about in a good way, like not a bad way. But it's one of those things where I think that's all also kind of why so many of us who are capable of enough to DIY, I think we hold on to that for so long, A, because it's affordable, but also like getting it wrong when you pay someone to do it feels like a very big risk. And part of that is definitely trusting the person that you're hiring and working with for sure. And making sure you're hiring the right person. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of options, especially in this industry, in this online space where you're going to get exactly what you ask for. And that might not be what you need.
Exactly, and I was literally about to say, keep it DIY until you know what you want, or at least you have an idea, because the amount of times that I've had, especially early in business, clients come to me and they're like, "Well, I don't know what I want, just, create what you think." And I do, and it's great, but it's not then they're
But
like,
it
"Oh,
doesn't
no,
resonate with them.
it."
Right.
You go through this process, and then,
They
oh
know what they don't want.
exactly, and a client that should have been a 4-week project is now a 6-month project, and you're kicking yourself, and you also wanna kick them in the face, but, it's not
Been
their
there.
fault, it's not
Yep.
their fault, but, there's discretion on both sides that should have been had, but I think
Absolutely.
to your point, play on Pinterest, like, go look at different things that inspire you and see what the common denominator is between what you're inspired by. Is it the color? Is it the negative space? Is it the fluidity? Is it,
Mhm.
the medium, and find
Yeah.
those things, and that helps so much in being able to bring a brand to life.
Yeah, I love it. Sasha, this has been incredible. I feel like we hopped all around as usual, which is my favorite thing to do. Thank you so much for coming on today. If you wanna let my listeners know where they can see more of your work, learn more about what you've got going on, hang out with you online, where can they go do that?
Yes, on Instagram specifically, it's at Sasha Monique Creates, and my website is iniciocreative.com, INICIO creative.com. And those are the 2
Nice.
places.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to Sell the Damn Service. If you loved what you heard today, do me a quick favor, hit subscribe, leave a rating, and drop a review. It seriously helps more service providers find the show, and it keeps me yapping into this mic every week. It's a nice, free, easy lift way for you to support the show. And hey, if you've got a friend who needs to hear this, please send this episode their way. The more people selling their damn services with confidence, the better this whole industry gets. See you next time.